Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live in a perfect world? A place with no sadness, no pain, just pure, unfiltered joy for a time. Two people had exactly that. Their names were Adam and Eve, and their home was a paradise called the Garden of Eden. Imagine waking up every day to the most beautiful sights and sounds, walking alongside God in the cool of the evening. Life was simple, beautiful, and complete. In the center of this magnificent garden stood two special trees, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God gave Adam and Eve freedom to enjoy everything in the garden, with just one rule: do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He warned them that if they did, they would surely face dire consequences. It was a test of trust, a single boundary in a world of limitless freedom. For a while, they lived in perfect harmony. But one day, a subtle voice of doubt entered this paradise. A serpent, cunning and persuasive, approached Eve. It questioned God's command, planting a seed of curiosity and mistrust. Did God really say you must not eat from any tree? The garden, it hissed. The serpent twisted the truth, suggesting that God was holding something back, that eating the fruit wouldn't bring death, but would instead make them like God, knowing good and evil. The fruit looked delicious, and the promise of wisdom was tempting. Eve looked at the tree, saw the forbidden fruit, and the serpent's words echoed in her mind. In that moment of decision, she chose to disobey. She took the fruit, ate it, and then gave some to Adam, who was with her, and he ate it too. Instantly, everything changed. Their eyes were opened, but not in the way they expected. For the first time, they felt shame and fear. They realized they were naked and tried to hide from each other and from God, covering themselves with fig leaves. The sweet fellowship they once shared with their Creator was broken by their own choice. When God came walking in the garden as he always did, they hid. The sound of his footsteps, once a source of joy, now filled them with dread. God called out, "Where are you?" Not because he didn't know, but because he wanted them to confess. Adam blamed Eve, and Eve blamed the serpent. The harmony was gone, replaced by blame and fear. The consequences were severe. They were banished from the Garden of Eden, cut off from the tree of life. They would now face hardship, pain, and struggle in a world that was no longer a perfect paradise. The ground would be cursed, and life would be filled with toil. Imagine their sorrow, walking out of Eden, leaving behind the only home they had ever known, the place where they walked with God. The gates closed behind them, guarded by an angel with a flaming sword. The loss must have been overwhelming. They had lost their innocence, their home, and their unbroken relationship with God. Despair could have easily consumed them. But even in this moment of judgment and loss, a glimmer of hope appeared. Before sending them out, God spoke a promise. He told the serpent that one day a descendant of Eve would come. This descendant, a savior, would crush the serpent's head. This was the very first hint of a rescue plan, a promise of redemption whispered into a world that had just fallen into darkness. This promise meant that their story wasn't over. It was the beginning of a much larger story of God's incredible love and his plan to bring humanity back to himself. The sorrow of leaving Eden was real, But the hope of a future savior was even more powerful. This promise of salvation would be a thread of light woven through all of human history, pointing toward the day when the relationship between God and humanity would be restored. The story of Adam and Eve isn't just about a mistake made long ago. It's a story about choices and consequences, about loss, but most importantly, about a God whose love is so great that he makes a promise of rescue even in the midst of failure. It's the beginning of a grand narrative of redemption that continues to unfold. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that explores these timeless themes. See you next time.